Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're at. I'm Ray Orsini, and joining me is almost always, Mr. Sean Lardo of ConnectWise. How you doing, Sean?
I just pulled a you. I'm muted. I'm doing great.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Thank
I
you.
was like, you were
I'm
pulling a me.
emulating. I got excited when I grew up. I want to be just like you. So no, I'm doing fantastic. I had to work remote from a coffee shop today because I have construction happening at my home, and so I will be muting myself off and on because also as construction's happening, my Bluetooth with the noise canceling is broke. So therefore, it is a day of days.
Oh, so we're gonna go ahead and get you. We'll do a GoFundMe for your noise canceling headphones. We can't have you without those, dude. So
I would appreciate that. You're so good to me. Thank
yeah,
you so
you know,
much.
I mean, I'm not getting you a hat, but I'll get you the.
I'll wear the hat too. Don't.
All right, all
Um,
right, all right. But,
don't.
we're not here for us. We're here for the audience. And I see Dr. Zoidberg. I see Keith Nelson. I see Sarah. I see Rich. I see Tim, one of our guests today. Uh, I see lots of people all excited about joining us.
Yeah,
For those that haven't seen this before, can you describe why we're here, what we're doing here?
great question. So aside from last week when I couldn't make it because I was on the showroom floor in the Solution Pavilion at ASCII, um, we're here to talk about PitchIT, the contestants that are involved, right? And the next question is big. What is PitchIT? For those that don't know what PitchIT is, I'll make it simple. PitchIT is a Shark Tank-like competition that's been sponsored by ConnectWise. This is the 5th year running, and we are looking for the best of the best for the innovators, right? And these are start vendors that are in the space. Now, in order for them to be qualified for this, they have to be able to be complementary to ConnectWise ecosystem, and most importantly, be able to support the MSP missions, right? Um, we have 26 vendors that are currently in this competition, and they will go through the accelerator incubator program until the end of August, which we will be competing live on a live pitch with Matt Solomon on the channel program. They're all vying for it to become one of the 3 finalists to get to IT Nation Connect and present live on stage in front of the audience. And also at the end of the day, they really want to win the first place prize of $70,000. Second place is $30,000, but also the first one they get for being a finalist is they get free booth space at Connect, which is worth its weight in gold.
Okay, but what about the knives? I mean, I was
Oh
promised
yes,
a.
and then third, you know what? You're absolutely right. The coveted dollar store steak knives for third place.
Absolutely.
I
And
mean,
you guys are real
actually,
busy here too,
Ray,
right?
we should probably really go back to something real quick. Instead of the steak knives, do you still have any of those cups we made that are beautiful?
Oh, the pink cups. I don't have any near me, but the ones with your face and my face on them. Uh
That should be the prize. Third
oh, I
place.
thought you liked your contestants. What the hell, dude? So what are we looking at here? What is this Channel Pro announcement? Uh
Sure. And so it's an actual ASCII press release that went out last week, and I love the space we're in because everybody collaborates, right? The whole point of the pitch a competition is really about that ecosystem. There's not one vendor or one partner that makes things successful. It's a collective. And ASCII was gracious enough when I approached them late last year, early this year, and said, "Hey, we have all these startup vendors, and they're bootstrapped and they're in pitch it. How can you help them because they need to get exposure, they need to get in front of all the partners." So Jerry and Jesse and team and all they agreed to creating new inventory with very high exposure at a reasonable rate that's like a bootstrap emerging vendor rate. And since then we've literally had about 6 of the vendors from last year's class and a couple from this year's class that have actually sponsored uh, approximately 8 of the events between them all collectively. And they get a lot of exposure. We get, and Jerry and team have actually let us get on stage to talk about these vendors because as well as I do, you've been a startup several times now. It's difficult to get out there and have the bet and have smart investments in where you should be.
yeah.
So we did a collaboration with them. They supported 150%. We've had great success from it and great results.
That's awesome. And what we're doing here is we're showcasing those same vendors. And what we're doing is every week we're going to bring on 2 people. There you go, Sean. Tim says he's out of the running. He just needs your love. So
You know, I really, you know what? I agree. That's all people need is my love.
All right, and that's the show. Everybody, have take care. No, I'm kidding. So whatchamacallit? So we are going to have the two guests come on, and we'd like to showcase them 10 minutes at a time each one. This is recorded. YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. You can go back and watch if you have to step away. It's the middle of the workday. We get it, but we do appreciate the support. At the end, we're going to do a 30-second pitch off where you're going to get to vote for who the winner is. But for now, Sean, what do you say we actually invite our first guest, who's goes by GoldenEye, maybe?
he's no stranger, right? He's no stranger to the space, right? He's everywhere somehow. I don't even know if he sleeps even at this point either, because he's on every social piece there is. He's on interviews everywhere else. He hosts his own live stream stuff too, which is, I don't get it. And he runs his own company, so
Yeah.
pretty impressive. But yeah, let's bring our first guest today is, like I said, GoldenEye, Tim Golden from Compliance Risk. Let's get him on. What's up, Tim?
Hey, Sean. Hey, Ray. Thanks for having me. And you know what? You're right, Ray. Like, the only thing that I need to win from PitchIT is the bobblehead of Sean Lardo. So
I have one.
And we're good.
So true story. We tried making one. They realized the head was so big it kept falling over. So they're having apparently NASA, JPL, and Boeing are putting together space age metals that are going to be strong enough to create the coils needed for his bobblehead. So,
well, as long as those things are compliant, I mean, we should be able to make that happen, right?
So let's talk compliance. So. I mean, okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and start this out saying I did one of these Partner First, and you've been on Partner First. I did a stream with an insurance provider once, and I was dreading it. I thought it was going to be the most boring freaking thing I've ever done in my life. It ended up being one of the most engaging live streams we've ever had. So I'm saying this because compliance and documentation, you and I go woo, but maybe not everybody. So I'm asking everybody to keep an open mind, because you might get surprised.
You might. And that's the thing, right? Everybody gets a little wonky, a little scary, a little, oh my gosh, the big bad compliance word. And the reality is it doesn't have to be scary. It doesn't have to be hard. And, we'll get into all that stuff here in a little bit. It's really not a bad thing. It's really something that is here. And yeah, we'll end up having to dig into that a little bit more. But yeah, we make compliance a little less boring.
Explain a little less boring.
Yeah. So, all right, let's just
compliance, remember?
Yeah, let's just back up a little bit, right? We know the FTC safeguard stuff just came out. We've been hearing the rumblings of the CMMC stuff forever, right? But let's just even break it down to the smallest common denominator, right? We do compliance work, right? We have employee handbooks, right? We probably have acceptable use policies. We do that kind of work in other areas of our business as an MSP, and our clients do that work in their businesses, right? And so we don't have to get bogged down into the intricacies of the, like, oh my gosh, what does this control? Yes, I mean, we do have to understand the controls. We do have to understand the overarching principles, right? Mm-hmm. But us techs, us MSPs, like, we're, ones and zeros, geeks, bits and bytes, and we tend to get into the weeds of all of that. Like, give me a tool to check the box. Yeah, that's not going to fly anymore in the world that we're facing in compliance at the moment.
So how do you do things differently? Because, let's be honest, having compliance, having documentation, having this stuff, why are people going to go over to compliance risk to have you to work with you when MSPs have been trying to do this for a while, right?
Yeah, great question, right? I guess that speaks a little bit about, like, who are we, where have we come from, right? And so we've been dealing with the compliance space since about 2006, 2007 at the federal government level, living and breathing at NIST 800-53, NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technologies, and 853 is a control catalog. You might have heard of things like FedRAMP, for example. And so we've been living and breathing that space for 20 plus years. And as we started to get more involved in the MSP community, which we love, by the way, we've just recognized how much MSPs struggled with this compliance, with this documentation, with the pieces to kind of shift left and get prepared and be ready for when boom happens, right? We hear this all the time. Documented, repeatable processes. I guarantee you have an onboarding process. I guarantee you probably have an offboarding process. It's taking that same thing and applying it to your cybersecurity. What separates us is we've figured out the secret sauce to become the first governance as a service platform specifically dedicated for MSPs.
So I like to do this thing where I look at Sean and he's my gauge for is this interesting or not. Like he's you're unmuted, dude. You can talk.
Yeah, well, I'm waiting. So yeah, obviously it's compliance, it's boring, right? However, it's and Ray and I, when we worked together, this was like something he stressed was documentation, compliance, and keeping things in order, right? So again, being an avid salesperson for years, I understand that when you have to be you have to set the expectation up front, be very transparent. So I feel like compliance is supportive in that way. But again, most people are going to be like, oh, it's compliance. So you said you make it fun and exciting. So how do you make it fun and exciting, Tim?
So we make it fun and exciting by thinking of it as the referee in the cybersecurity space, right? If we think of the sports analogy, right, we have the refs on the guidelines, on the sidelines, understanding what the rules are, being able to make sure that we're following those rules, enforcing those rules, and having a process in place for those rules. So when we take the sports analogy and we think compliance is just really the referee of our cybersecurity initiatives, of our CIS, our NIST, our Essential 8, our HIPAA. It's really just having that referee to be able to ensure of, measuring our success around adhering to cybersecurity stuff. We make it fun by optimizing that whole process.
So what do you say, Sean? We get one of these questions from the chat here. I see Dr. Zoidberg, and you got Tim, the other Tim Shore saying hello, Team Tim. But we have Dr. Zoidberg saying, my biggest challenge with managed compliance was understanding all the forms and being able to have B2B conversations with clients. I could fill out a checklist, but really understanding the why.
We love the why conversation, right? Because that's where it all starts. And that's where we started at Compliance Risk, was building a compliance focused peer group specifically for MSPs to help them understand the why, so that they in turn can explain that why to their clients, right? For years, as Dr. Z pointed out, it's been a checkbox exercise. Do you, don't you, do you, don't you? And that is changing as, cybersecurity threats change as well. And so we take to heart the ability to train you all around the why conversation during our weekly peer group meetings. And the key of that is, if we can help you understand the why, you can explain the why to your clients, which ultimately leads to, I hate to say more MRR, but ultimately leads to more secure and defensibility in your business and in your client's business.
You're muted. But I got you. I have a question to follow up on that. So again, though, we want to know about the why, but the checklist itself is important when you're trying to get stuff done quickly, right? And we know that people react faster to that, to just say, do this, do this, do this, right? So in that, are you always updating the checklist for us? Is it something we have to do? How does that work?
Yeah. So the thing about compliance, really where we started with the documentation, depends on the framework, right? Every compliance guy is going to use the word "it depends," right? So part of what we do is making sure that we're always up to date as Compliance Risk with the shifting industries like FTC. We've been talking about that for, close to a year now. And here we are, MSPs are struggling to roll out an FTC program for probably most of their clients it's applicable to. And that starts with documentation. We have an FTC policy pack available to our clients to be able to start rolling out that documentation. We're always on top of that, always building out our own knowledge of what's to come and what's here today.
So let me ask you a question then. This sounds like a lot of difficult stuff. And one of the things we've talked about in the past is that you can give a lot of documents, a lot of policies, and all the tools. And as we've seen, I mean, Sean, this is a running thing, right? With ConnectWise, you get Automate, and I was one of those MSPs. I apologize, but you get Automate or LabTech in my days, and you're like, yeah, it's my remote control tool, and I use it for Screen Connect, and that's it. And so, because the MSP in the beginning, it's so much, you get inundated. How do you have professional services? How do you help the MSPs so it's not just a giant ocean and they drown, right? Like, how do you help them get through that?
Certainly. So let's just pick on cyber liability insurance, because everybody knows about that as the problem in the industry. Insurance companies are asking for an incident response plan, disaster recovery, security. They're asking for these things. We worked with Fifth Wall to build out a specific industry MSP incident response plan. So now you as the MSP can take this incident response plan, make your minor changes to it, and then build that out at scale in a safe, secure environment, right? No more dealing with SharePoint. I mean, Sean, I love your quote. SharePoint is where documents go to die, right? So even something as simple as meeting your and your client's cybersecurity insurance needs with a small set of documents, being able to rapidly deploy them to yourself and your clients across your enterprise.
That's interesting. So let's get to some of the questions, Sean, if you don't mind. Well, you have Tim saying Team Polygon is a great catalyst or kickoff tool. You have Josh also agreeing, so yay. Let's see here. I have.
Good thing you brought your friends, Tim. Thank you for bringing your friends along.
I mean, you got to stack the deck. Come on.
I'm surprised. Like, just you need like your parents like on the sideline. We love our son. Like that's.
So there was a
Sean
question.
didn't have that. Sean's mom was never proud of him in sports, so
exactly
you got to forgive him. All right, Sean, can you read this one for us, please?
Yeah, I was going to say, getting us back on the rails and keeping us accountable. Sean, can you read that one?
Yeah, you know what, Tim? Thank you for repeating what Ray just said. One more time, I can probably do it. Third time's a charm. So, talking about, again, loving peer groups, which I think everybody does, but even the accountability metric of some type. How do you keep the peer groups accountable and engaged? I think that's
sure. Absolutely great question. So last fall, we ran all the members of our peer group through CIS controls, literally week after week. Where are you? What's going well? What's not going well? L10 style, week after week after week, to get them to move, to get their own house in order. And so, yes, the peer group has accountability pieces. We bake that into what we do because, otherwise it's just a bunch of talking heads in a room. So absolutely key points.
Sir, I built a whole network off of that. And with that said, we're going to go ahead and walk Tim off. Sean, we have two more, two people from the same contestant. You want to introduce them?
They have so much awesome to talk about that they had to bring two people on to talk about how awesome they are. So yeah, without further ado, we have Mark Alayev and we have Matt Lynn, from Thread. I was already saying Thread and Lynn and yes.
How do you get Mark's last name right and then you screw up Matt?
And I jack up Lynn.
The easy one.
It's so much easier.
I jack up Lynn. I'm like, you know what? Let's take the easy thing and let's just destroy it. So
what's up, gentlemen? How you doing?
Doing great.
Good.
I'm not going to take that one personally, Sean, but
Matt, you know what? Don't worry. I'll make it up to you somewhere, some way. I don't know how.
We'll get there.
The next one.
Yeah. I'm here for you, though.
There you go.
So, enough about me. Let's talk about you guys, please. For the love of God, stop talking about me. Tell us about a Thread. Tell us about what you have going on there.
Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah. So we help you differentiate on service experience. We built the first thing that everyone hates. If anyone has ever gotten messaged by a Microsoft Teams customer pinging you directly, you know how all of your service just breaks down. Your doing your work, and all of a sudden you have this request, an account management request, a service request. And so what we do is we build these incredible bots that you can deploy into your customers' Teams or Slack. And finally, your customers can behave, but still get the experience that they want. So, and one big thing about Matt and I shared an office back when people used to be at the office. We've worked 20 years at an MSP collectively, 10 years each, and we felt this pain. It was such a big problem of customers just skipping the line, skipping the queue, not using our normal service channels, and we realized we needed to build something for it, and here we are.
So,
Yeah.
go ahead, dude. Go ahead.
I was going to say, big concept is service experience, right? We think through the lens of the end user on both sides, customer experience and the employee experience of the MSP. Uniting the two is service experience, and so that's how and why we help MSPs differentiate on service.
I think so. I'm going to come from my perspective, and it's funny because when I first started working with Ray, I was so accustomed to using email and phone calls and text, right? And Ray was like, "You got to be in Teams." I'm like, "Dude, Slack then." And I was like, "No, I don't have time. I'm not looking at it. I understand the use around it, right?" And that's because when you're working from platform to platform to platform, you stick to what you know best first, and because you're trying to be as effective and as quick as you can for everything, right? So, and believe me, Ray yelled at me like every day, and then I start using Slack, and then he's like, "Oh, now we're switching to Teams." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? What the, like seriously? you did all this, right?" And so,
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, like seriously brawls about it. But the reason why I'm bringing it up is because something I find of huge, immense value from this is being able to put it all in one place and work out of these platforms, right? Because now I do live and die in Teams. So talk about that a little bit. Go ahead. What do you want to say, Ray? I know he says only smart.
No, I was going to say no. Well, part of it is, it's very hard to take anything seriously when I'm looking at this that Sean said.
Aww.
Me and Bobby together. That was last
growth, everyone.
I think somebody made a line of, that's a picture of a person going back in time to hug his younger self kind of thing.
I can see the resemblance. No, so what I was going to say was, yes, that was a horrible, horrible time because I absolutely missed Slack. And we had a tool back in the day when we were manage users going from Slack to manage, and that worked well. And then when we went to Teams, I hadn't thought about that, and we were SOL. Funny enough, I met some awesome gentlemen in 2019 at a bar, at a party. They crashed the party we were throwing and taught me all about this whole, it was a different name back then, but taught me about this whole platform. And I'm like, hell yeah. And we did it. And it actually helped us engage with Teams, despite all the Slack whining that I was also doing myself. So,
Slack whining, that has to be the new hashtag that comes out of this meeting.
I want to see those shirts. I want to see the thread shirts at ITNC. When you guys are on stage, I want to see Slack whining.
There you go. Yeah, actually,
right.
Oh, go ahead,
Matt.
I was going to say, we built a light front end back in the day for Teams called Slackify Me on the web. You hit a toggle and it presented it like Slack.
See, I would have loved that. Could you also make Teams fast and useful and not have horrible white space issues?
I'm going to jump to some questions now for you guys that people will probably ask, which is, if they're using you guys as that chat and they're using it for the tech team, let's just say for tickets and whatnot, how's that flow look, and does it communicate back into ConnectWise one way, shape, or form? Because duplicating documentation sucks and nobody wants to do it.
That's the beauty, right? And our big slogan last year at IT Nation was "Death to the ticket." The ticket is automated. We write everything back into it from the conversation. As soon as the technician responds, well, obviously you're working on it, so let's just assign you to it. Let's start a time entry. And so we have this incredible bidirectional sync today with ConnectWise, and we run everything back into it. Time entries are gorgeous. We have a service copilot that writes your time entries based on the conversation you just had. We have auto prioritization that reads the message and tries to figure out what's the priority of it and sets the priority. Auto categorization is coming out, so we can figure out your type, subtype, and item. So the beauty is, not only do we write back to the PSA, but we also write to the PSA the things that you hate to write, like time entries, priorities, and type, subtype, and item.
Well, and you guys had this really cool demo. What was it, like 3 months ago, 2 months ago? You did the video where it was taking all the data from the conversations in the chat, in the ticket, and then putting it into a meaningful bullet point. This is the synopsis of it, and I thought that was really cool because yeah, it's a constant battle. Sean, you want to bring up this question from Dr. Zoidberg? Says, I can buy the chat module from ConnectWise directly. How would I either use Thread alongside or instead of chat? Why is it better than chat?
Whew.
Yeah. Please
Why does
elaborate
ConnectWise
on
suck? No, that's not the question. Okay,
No.
ConnectWise itself. You have Automate, you have CWRMM, there's multiple options for how it, however people want to take use of the tools.
Mhm.
What's the use case for Thread versus chat?
Yeah, and I think the beauty of our solution is that we marry the conversation and the content from integrated platforms into one unified, ordered in time medium, which is the thread. And so what I mean by that is, for instance, we not only integrate with Manage, we also integrate with Automate and Control and Auvik, other platforms as well, Autotask, Cloud Radial, and we're able to pull that content into the conversation for the tech, whereby it accelerates their ability to deliver service.
Yeah, I
So
love
you're
that answer.
complimentary? So you're complementary to the chat, is what you're saying for ConnectWise. You're complementary to the whole offering, right? And you're just a great value add partner.
That's right. I have a good answer. I think that the ConnectWise chat product is a good way to get started. It offers you a web-based version of it, but what we've learned, and we try to launch a web-based chat as well, is that people don't want to go onto a website to chat because they don't, the end customer doesn't necessarily remember the domain name of their IT service provider. Only the IT service manager does. So I would say the biggest differentiator, how I would think about it is, hey, if you want to be in your customer's Teams environment or in your customer's Slack environment, then we offer that. Chat, I think it's called Chat Assist, right, Sean? The ConnectWise product?
Yeah, I believe it is. But
Yeah.
let me ask you a question. So there's a question here, and I'll bring it up at the same time as I'm bringing up this, is that, you have comments like people like Keith saying they don't find ticketing, or they don't find written conversations as good as, I hope by belly to belly you're not like hugging people bare chested, but I'm assuming that's a press of flesh kind of thing in person or on a phone call. I personally don't feel that way. What's your guys' take on it?
There's a time and place for everything. I think a phone call is really important if you have a P1 outage where they can't access things and they need to hear a human voice. But the reality is, in order to run a successful, profitable MSP business, you need to be able to deliver excellent service at a great cost. And you can't do that by phone. I was director of service delivery for this MSP. We had multiple service desks, and it's simply not possible to scale phone in the way that we need to. And on the flip side, how many of you all use chat to talk to Amazon, Uber, any one of your, Time Warner, because it's so much easier. Like, if it's not a big deal, it's much easier to just take it offline, go asynchronous chat, and get it solved. And so we're helping you to unlock that value. So you're right. Phone calls and belly to belly are important when it's necessary.
Yeah, and I don't disagree at all. As we're wrapping up, I know you had the Microsoft customer story. We'll absolutely do that on the back 10 because I definitely want to share that. But I will say the one thing that's much more difficult with a phone call, and especially more difficult in person, how do you document all that, right? How do you get that back into the ticket? And like Zoidberg said, if it's not in ConnectWise, it didn't happen. All right, gentlemen, we're going to talk you off for a second. Sean and I will talk about you behind your backs while it's live on stream, and then we'll bring you back for the 30-second pitch. Thanks so much for coming on, guys. Just hold tight. Sean, how are these gentlemen doing so far?
Very well. Compliance is hard. I think that, and also, as you can tell from the questions in the chat, there's a lot of loose ends in conversation, right? I mean, obviously, this is a more in-depth, both products are more in-depth conversations. So, even like using Keith as an example of when he said belly to belly, talking to people, and something Mark had mentioned even is about to be more effective, you have to do these things. He's not wrong, but I think it's to each his own in the way they approach their business. You have a difference between boutique and retail, right, or transactional. And I think that's how you have to sort of look at this. Chat is great for a lot of people. Compliance they're both a necessity to scale ultimately, or to protect themselves even at that much. But
yeah, I agree 100%.
I mean, we've done it. So I think I'm curious to see how they do with their pitch, let's be honest.
And that's, and that's why I like doing the long form first, because I think we may be setting them up for a curveball because they're so used to the 10 minutes of talking about it themselves. And now they got to do it in 30 seconds.
Doesn't matter.
So
doesn't matter. You know this, when you're working and you're trying to get business, you only have that moment.
Absolutely. So we're going to take, you're going to be voting. This is the link, go.mspmedia.tv/pitchit2023. Do not vote until they're done with both pitches. So I'm going to take it back off so you don't see it and pretend you can't rewind on YouTube. So let's bring Matt, Mark, and Tim back on. Tim, since you went first, you're going to be going first. That timer is on the screen for you, and when you see it started, let's do this. I think it looks a little better. When that timer starts, you go. Are you ready, sir?
Ready.
Then go.
So Polygon is the only governance as a service platform built by MSPs for MSPs to help you bring documentation and compliance at scale for you and your clients. All I need is 15 seconds.
Wow. Are we just going to sit here quietly for 11 seconds or what are we doing here? It's amazing.
No, the ability to bring documentation to you and your clients is all I need to say.
No, your 15 seconds are done, dude. I was muted, by the way, so that's why I was, yeah.
Don't worry, I got you, Ray. So
I appreciate you, Boo. All right.
I'm going to be quiet.
So 15 seconds, that's a baller move, but do you think that can pay off, Sean? Do you think, is this within the ConnectWise teachings in the PitchIT training stuff?
So first, we always suggest you take the full amount of time that you have to make sure your message is completely precise. Question is, say exactly what you said again, Tim. What's your pitch again?
My pitch?
Yeah, say it again.
Polygon is the only governance as a service platform that brings compliance and documentation to you and your clients at scale.
Good.
All right. I agree with you. All right. And we said Mark is going for thread. Is that correct?
That's right.
All right. Mark, how you feeling, dude? You think you got this?
Oh, feeling great.
I mean, 15 seconds can you beat? I feel like it's like name that tune in 15 seconds now. I don't know what to,
There you go.
I'm trying to last long. Not good.
You know the deal. When the timer starts, you go. And 3, 2, 1, it's yours.
Awesome. So we help MSPs differentiate on service experience and win more customers. We were co-founded by folks worked in an MSP with 20 years of experience, and we figured out the problem. It's tickets. Customers are tired of waiting on hold and waiting for responses. We give you the tools to collaborate with them where they are and text where they are. So whether they're in the PSA or otherwise, they can respond. And we also have a lot of AI.
A lot of AI. I love how you. That's
a second and a half to go. Not
I just
bad
cut.
at
I
all.
cut half
Yeah,
my pitch.
no, you did
was like,
good.
a lot of AI.
There you go. Matt, how do you think Mark did, man?
Always well. Always well.
Very good.
It's Eminem.
Sean, you're the coach here, man. You're the guy. You're the what did we call you? The Imperial Grandmaster of.
It depends on which week
whatever.
it is. You come up with different names all the time. I don't know if that really lends credibility or absolute, I don't know, ignorance. But I will say this, like, yeah, you had to cut off part of your stuff, Mark. You obviously can't do that. You got to make sure you can fit 30 seconds in the value add piece. So what problem do you really solve for? Now, we can talk about 10 different things you solve for ultimately, right? But at the end of the day, you solve for what? Simplicity and communications and how
meeting customers where they are. That's it. That's it, baby.
Right? A streamlined way of doing things for simplistic communications that also are part of the efforts in documentation with tech support or even sales we can even talk about really, right? I mean, anything, but think about that. So because the problem you solve though is that simplicity of communication, omni-channel presence.
Great feedback, Sean.
There you go. So we have the link below. We'll give a few minutes for people to come in and vote. If you win, get nothing. You get bragging rights for the next week. You know what I mean?
We run streamers.
Yeah, we got a picture with Sean, like Bobby did.
I mean,
Aw.
I'm down, dude. Professional headshots
That's
all day long.
picture.
He was being so good. He was trying to do a professional headshot. He walked over to get it. I just walked over and I hugged him. I was like, "This is what these moments for." And he just went with it. I was like, "He's like,
That's
right."
awesome.
Bobby's in
That's
there.
He deserves all the credit in the world for literally tolerating that. The photographer was looking at us like, "Do you really want me to take this picture?" I was like, "Yes."
Yeah, we
So-
said
Take two.
leave is next.
All right. So
Sean, I'll have a hat for you at Connect, so you can cover up that head for you.
What do you mean? I don't want to cut. This is beautiful. This is
I know, but the glare in Florida sun's gonna kill me.
I'll be indoors. We're fine, and I'll just put some powder on.
Perfect.
all right. So why don't we get some questions while we're waiting for the results to come in? So we have actually, why don't we take the chance real quick, Matt and Mark? We had that Microsoft story that you guys wanted to discuss. What is that?
Yeah, this, we all sell Microsoft, and for us, it's a huge vendor. So when we started on this, there was no ChatGPT out in the public, everyone going crazy in January. We started in May of last year and started, all right, well, let's start working on it. We used our Microsoft relationship to try to do it. They said, use Azure OpenAI. It's more secure. We'll never retrain on your data. We're like, all right, fuck it. Let's go. Let's get after it. And so we ended up building something that we launched at IT Nation. Go ConnectWise. Thank you for IT Nation. And Microsoft loved it because one thing that I wanted to say is Microsoft loves AI with their $10 billion investment in OpenAI, and they love MSPs. So it's been really great. No, it's hilarious, Dr. Zoidberg. It was just a really great fit for them because we're in Microsoft Teams. We have over 1,000 customer teams integrated. We're summarizing those conversations and we're using their OpenAI. So this has been a great journey for us. We did get invited to their Build conference in Seattle as well. So, we all try to impress our overlord, Microsoft.
You got to do it. All right, it's time. It's time for the results. Tim, you think you won or what?
I think I have a pretty good darn shot. So yeah.
Okay, Mark.
Yeah, we did.
Because I want the bobblehead.
Well, it looks like.
Oh,
Wow. Go, Tim.
Wow.
Good job.
Like
Does
the
that tell you how many people voted?
confidence. It's impressive. No, I can see it.
A lot.
It's enough. Yeah.
Well,
It's enough that those are fair numbers, dude.
I was gonna say it's fine to say 80 out of 20 when only 3 people voted, but if it's
No.
3,000, that's
I don't know if only 3 people voted. You couldn't do 80 and 20 though. I don't know if you're aware of that. I mean, I don't know.
That's awesome.
Nicely done, Tim.
This is based on 41 votes.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go.
Remember, this goes off.
So you
multiple
see,
platforms.
my 30-second pitch probably paid off. My 15-second pitch.
I was just about to say.
I think what he's saying is we need to do 15-second pitches going forward.
I feel like that's yes.
It's like that one kid that screws up the bell curve in class, and then you're all mad at him afterward. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. We appreciate you. It's been awesome talking to both of you. We will have in the show notes, in the show descriptions below, we will have everyone's contact information, so you can go reach out to them and absolutely come back to us. Come follow us. We'll be doing this every single week till IT Nation Connect. Until that's the final event, right, Sean? The IT Nation Connect.
IT Nation Connect is the road to connect. Yes.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Until next time, we appreciate the audience. Take care of yourselves and each other.
Toodles.
This has been a broadcast of the MSP Media Network.